Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Uncanny Spirits Club. And it is a hot one here in Ohio as of my recording now. By the time you see this, it could be, I don't know, next year in January or something. But for now, it's hot. Summer's coming, I think, next week. I think is the first day of summer. Something like that. And then it's hit Ohio pretty hard. We're in 90 degrees. We're in a heat wave. That might not seem a lot to people in like Texas and Arizona and wherever, but for us, it's pretty hot. So I have something that I've been seeing a lot, and I have yet to try it. And it's been kind of on my radar, and it's surprising in a lot of ways the more I look at it. So I'm gonna bring this up to you guys, and it gives me a bit of a philosophical question concerning where it actually goes in the lineup because I hadn't thought about it until it was brought up to me just a few moments ago. I'll get to that in a minute. But this is, and it's a big bottle. This is John Barr blended Scotch whiskey, special reserve, or reserve blend, not special reserve, reserve blend. Okay. It's in a glass bottle for being this big. It's bottom shelf. I say that because that's where I picked it up from the bottom shelf. And it is $29.99. Screw top looks like, no cork. And the question I have that I hadn't considered, and it's too late now because I'm making the video for the main lineup now, but being $29.99, but being a full 1.75 liters rather than my 750, how much would it have been at 750? Would it have qualified for the cheap shot challenge? It possibly might have. I don't know what price difference would be at the lower size. I would have to look into it. But I'm going to give it its time to shine here on the main thing because I did spend more than $20 on it, regardless of what the size was. And it is in a glass bottle, which is a surprise as well, because generally you get something like this in the lower prices that's in plastic. And it's not. It's a good, solid, like heavy bottle. This is actually pretty big. This is one of the heaviest bottles of liquor I've hefted in quite a long time. It's a good color. It doesn't look too diluted, to be honest. It's at 80 proof. It is distilled, blended, and bottled in Scotland. John Barr and Company, Glasgow. And there's an address here. And yeah. And it's named for, there's a little story on the back. Let me see if I can read it. It's very small print. It's named for one of the great whiskey men of modern history. John Barr Reserve Blend marries single malt and grain whiskeys from the Speyside and Highland regions. That sounds like a recipe for success, to be honest. This harmonious blend is smooth, elegant, and refined, like its namesake, who introduced the world to a richer style of Scotch whiskey. It is tradition moved forward. Now, it doesn't say anything else about Mr. John Barr, so it's made a lot of like, hey, this guy's great, he made the Scotch, but it doesn't say anything else about him. Suspicious, as my daughter would say. So, although she would call it suspicious. Sorry. I'm not sorry, never mind. My daughter's hilarious. Screw you guys. I don't mean that. You guys are nice. You guys are great. I don't know where this video is going.
It's got an aerator.
Yeah, it does have an aerated contraption in it, which is pretty fancy for a bottom shelf bottle. And like this keeps surprising me. It's in glass. It's got the aeration. It's foolproof. It's not expensive.
Because that's a lot of it to go through.
It can't be as bad as the old smuggler.
No.
It cannot be as bad as the old smuggler. So, got my Glencairns. Oh boy, it's hefty. I'm going to pour some in. Generous amount. Pour some in for the Peanut Gallery.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll set that aside for a minute. Now, Speyside has a particular taste to it. Highland Scotch has a particular taste to it. And they're both marked as not generally being peated Scotches. which is good. You don't try to, if you're going to make a blend, you don't often want to mix peated with non-peated unless you're making it a peated blend, in which case you just go for peated blends. But I've had, most of the scotches I have are single malts, although I have had Monkey Shoulder, which is a decent blend. And it's blended from Highland scotches, and I don't know what else it's blended from. It sources from like Glenfiddich and a few of the others. I looked into it once, but I don't remember the exact details. So I'm interested in what brands or what distillers they source from. But it's an interesting mix. I think Speyside and the Highland both probably mix together fairly well as far as the non peated scotches are concerned. But we'll see. I have to taste it to find out. It certainly smells. It smells like a Highland. I'm a little stuffy because it's been wet and dry and hot and all kinds of things today. Like we've had thunderstorms and heat and just all kinds of things messing up my sinuses. So, but it smells like a Highland Scotch. So I also have to wonder about the ratio between the Speyside and the Highland, depending on, maybe the taste will give me a little bit more insight into that. So I'm going to do a little clink, not end up in the clink, and I'm going to taste it and find out. So let's see. Okay. All right. You can taste the Highland, but you can definitely taste the Speyside influence.
There is peat in there.
Because Speyside is almost peated. Like they don't generally use peat as a main thing. It's not the centerpiece, but you do get a little bit of smokiness to it. That is an interesting blend. I like that, actually. It's not knocking my socks off, but it is, it's decent. I would be interested now, based on first impressions, how this would stack up to Monkey Shoulder. Because Monkey Shoulder is in the regular 750 milliliter here in the States, and it is generally, I think it's $39.99. I think last time I checked at my local grocery stores here in Ohio. Your results may vary, of course. So it's more expensive, and it's sourced from moderate to potentially expensive whiskeys. This, I'd have to wonder what it was sourced from, because it's decent. It seems to be a nice, solid blend. Let's give it another taste now that I'm getting a little bit of numbing too on the taste buds. Not a lot, but just a little bit of numbness on the top of the tongue. Let's take another taste now that the palate's adjusted. A little bit of sourness, but not bad. I am getting some breaking news information on the blend. It apparently was created, the original John Barr blend was created for the UK market in the 1970s to imitate the recently withdrawn, at the time, Johnnie Walker Red Label. Johnnie Walker Red Label is on the shelves again. I don't know what the drop was. Let's see. It has several versions. The Reserve, that's what this is. So this is the black label. This contains 40 constituent whiskeys,
Wow.
including Speyside and Highland malts, up to 15 years old. So that's not bad. That isn't bad at all, actually. I mean, it's probably going to be, it would be too much of a hassle to locate every single one of those brands, but having things up to 15 years, that's not cheap necessarily. That's not a bunch of cheap scotches for the most part. So, and to sell it in this large of a bottle here in the States, in glass, not in plastic, in glass, I'm impressed. I am impressed. Again, it's not the best tasting scotch I've ever had, but for the money and the size of it, I can be pretty satisfied with this. This may become a regular on my shelves. I may get this as like a shelf filler for when I'm just, oh, I want to have something to drink, but I don't want to go through some of my really nice things. I don't want to just drink something cheap. I'm going to go for the John Barr. It might become standard. Yeah, this might be a good standard. I have a few other things that I consider standards, like some of the Evan Williams bottled and bond 100 because it's $20, 100 proof. The Ezra Brooks 99 is a standard for bourbon. I don't have these all on my shelf right now. When I eventually get my retirement dream bar, these will be my standard bottles. But that includes things like Bruichladdich also, which is not cheap to get or easy to get. So that's kind of like a dream in the future. But yeah, this might become a regular if I'm kind of unsure what to get and I have a little bit of money to play with, but I don't want to spend big bucks. I could, this will last me a little while, to be honest. This is like getting 2 bottles of the cheaper stuff. So it's impressive. It has impressed me. So there you go. That is, let me heft this bottle back up, and it is heavy. The glass is real thick glass too. There's some quality glassmanship here. I don't know if that's the word for it, but pardon me. The John Barr blended Scotch whiskey reserve blend, and this would be the black label, of course, because a lot of times in other markets they, like Johnny Walker has the red label, the green label, the blue label, which is the really expensive one, the black label, etc. You get that with some of the other things. And so this would be considered the black label. $29.99 here in my.
Since 1881.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice little embossing on the bottle. Also, it also has in the back product of Scotland. $29.99 here in my local grocery stores in Ohio. Once again, your prices may vary based on state taxes or whatever, depending. It can be found at the bottom shelf with the things in the plastic bottles, like right next to stuff like the Old Smuggler, which is a huge surprise because this here is a hidden gem. This feels like when I started buying the Benchmark number 8, because it is usually found in the mid shelf or in the bottom, depending. Like sometimes they have it on the bottom, and it's like $12.99, and it's excellent. It's great stuff. It's the champion for the Cheap Shot Challenge still because of averages. The average price, the average taste, the average everything contributes to each just being cut above everything else. If I had this in a smaller bottle and saw what the lower price would be, it would be a huge contender for the Cheap Shot Challenge. I don't see it being as cheap as that. I don't see it being around like $12.99, but I could see it being down to like $19.99, which is a firm, solid area to be in, right next to the Ezra Brooks 99, right next to the bottled and bond Evan Williams. A lot of good stuff in that $20 price point. So yeah, this is a hard, solid recommend from me for $29.99. Or if you can get the smaller bottle, if you want to spend a little bit less, and they have it. I haven't seen smaller bottles of this. And maybe the smaller bottles are in plastic, because sometimes they do that. Sometimes they'll put their bigger bottles in glass because they're bigger and they don't want them rupturing or whatever, and they put the small, or they just want you to buy these ones because they look nicer. Marketing gimmicks. But $29.99, 80 proof, blended Scotch whiskey, blended from over 40 different constituent Scotch whiskeys from the Highland and Speyside areas. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to sit here and enjoy this for a while. You folks have a good one. As always, cheers.